So, the next important topic is data transfer schemes. So, within a microcomputer system, there are three entities. One is microprocessor, another is memory, and the third is I/O device, or we call the peripheral devices. And the data transfer takes place between any pair of these devices, right? Microprocessor to memory, memory to microprocessor, I/O device to microprocessor, I/O device to memory. Any combinations you can take by considering these three entities. You can transfer data from any place to anywhere. Any one of these can be source, any one of this can be destination, right. So, we are talking the data transfer within a microcomputer system, where the components are microprocessor, memory, and various peripheral devices, right. So, what are the possible types of data transfer can take place between these pair of devices? And one already we have classified before, that is called serial data transfer, another is called parallel data transfer, isn't it. By serial data transfer is performed by SID and SOD line, serial output data and serial input data line, which is directly available in microprocessor 8085. And for parallel data transfer, the 8-bit data bus, we can make use of 8-bit data bus to transfer the data directly from microprocessor to either memory or to I/O devices and vice versa, right. So, these are the two ways we can classify the data transfer schemes. But apart from this, we can also classify the various data transfer schemes within the microcomputer system. We are not discussing about intercomputer communications, unlike a computer network. In a computer network, the data communication takes place between two computers, but here we are talking about the data transfer or the communication takes place within the various units within the microcomputer right. So, you should not confuse, because some of these schemes are not at all applicable when you open the box of the, or when you go out of the microcomputer, because the data communication in the networking scenario or the intercomputer communication, network communication, cloud communication, etc., are completely different. They will follow different protocols, standards, etc. So, we are discussing about the various techniques or protocols, standards which are available for data transfer within the units of a microcomputer system. Microcomputer means personal computer, right, and the personal computer can be equipped or can be interfaced with any kind of I/O device, input and output devices. So, these are the normal devices: keyboard, mouse, CRT, printer. These are the normal devices for microcomputer system or personal computer. But apart from this, there are some other kinds of devices like sensors and actuators. For example, based upon the sensing the voltage value, we have to operate an actuator. Actuator can be a motor, right. So, here input device is sensor and output device is an actuator, and which is very much used for various industries, right. So, therefore, microprocessor microcomputer is one of the popular application of microprocessor, but apart from that, microprocessor can be utilized for various industrial applications also, right. So, here we are discussing about various data transfer schemes that is possible between microprocessor and I/O devices within a microcomputer. I think understood the difference between microcomputer and microprocessor and microcontroller, because three terms we use most oftenly use: microprocessor, microcomputer and microcontroller. So, microprocessor is the CPU or the processor, and microcontroller is the microprocessor, other I/O ports and memories, everything into a single chip, that is called microcontroller. And if you take only processor part and design in a single chip, we call it as a microprocessor, right. And microcomputer includes everything, but microcomputers are always made up of microprocessors, and embedded systems are always made up of using microcontrollers, or you can say most of the cases, in the 99.9 cases, every embedded system will have a microcontroller. In 99.9 percentage cases, microcomputers always will include a microprocessor. Is it okay? So, they are the common ways for understanding or for getting the difference between microcomputer or microcontroller or simply microprocessor. Okay. So, there are three entities we most oftenly use. So, anyway, so these data transfer schemes we can classify into broadly into two types, between microprocessor and other devices within a microcomputer. So, one is program data transfer, another is DMA data transfer. So, DMA stands for direct memory access data transfer. Okay. So, broadly we can divide into two types. Then program data transfer can be further divided into three types. But to make it more clear, irrespective whatever the data transfer schemes we are going to read, right. So, all these needs some kind of hardware and software for its implementation. Only software is not possible, only hardware is not possible, right, because your hardware must be programmable to implement one of these data transfer schemes. Both we need hardware as well as the software. For example, if you use 8255, port A, port B, port C for data transfer. So, 8255 itself hardware and you have to program it by using software or programs. So, a mixture of hardware and softwares are required for implementation of these data transfer schemes. Is it okay? So, under this program data transfer, we have again three types. One is synchronous, another is asynchronous, then third one is interrupt driven. But what is the difference between program data transfer and DMA data transfer? So, under the program data transfer, the data transfer is possible between any pair of devices by executing a program, by executing a set of instructions, right. So, therefore, it is called program data transfer. But under this DMA data transfer, there is a special chip called DMA controller, chip number is 8257 or 8237. This is called DMA controller chip. So, this chip is used for transferring the data directly between IO devices to memory without the involvement of the microprocessor. But without the involvement of microprocessor, the data transfer under program data transfer scheme is not possible. Always microprocessor has to transfer the data under the program data transfer. So, whereas in DMA mode data transfer, the microprocessor may be busy in performing some other task, while the data transfer is taking place using DMA. Is it okay? So, under this program data transfer, both data transfer as well as the computation will be done parallelly. Therefore, microprocessor consumes most of the time both for transfer as well as the computation, and to prevent that we can use DMA. But at the same time, DAP is an additional chip. Under the program control IO, we need not DMA, or DMA is not required for data transfer. So, only microprocessor is enough to support data transfer as well as the processing or computation. Is it okay? So, then which is better, whether we should go for program data transfer or we should go for DMA data transfer? Did you understand the difference? So, one difference that program data transfer, so there must be a program which will be executed to transfer the data, whereas in DMA data transfer we need not write a program for this, only we can write few instructions for enabling the DMA, right. But DMA is exclusively used for the data transfer, right. So, anyway, we shall see how 8257 is organized to transfer the data directly from peripheral devices to memory. So, under this program data transfer, again we have three types. One is synchronous, another is asynchronous, then another is interrupt driven. So, what is synchronous? So, whenever both the devices match in the speed the speed between two devices, if they match, then we call it is synchronous data transfer, and in asynchronous the speed is mismatching. Can you give an example where both the devices will match in their speed? That means the source and destination. So, both the device should have the same speed. In other words, the rate at which the sender sends the data, the receiver also receives the data at the same rate. When both the device match in their speed. See, if I write move A comma B, so A is a register and B is a register. So, the speed of A matches with the speed of B, you know it. So, this is the best example for the synchronous data transfer, but ideally there is no synchronous data transfer, because at least there is a communication delay that cannot be also tolerated using the synchronous data transfer schemes. So, anyway, so next is asynchronous. Under the asynchronous data transfer, whenever the speed mismatches, and every asynchronous data transfer needs a request ready signal. That means, microprocessor the device which wants to send the data will put a request signal to microprocessor. Then if the microprocessor is ready, then it will send a ready signal to the device, and these two signals we call handshaking, request and acknowledgement. The microprocessor sends the request signal, and so I just told the reverse. Microprocessor sends the request signal to the device, and if the device is ready, it will send an acknowledgement signal. So, this side is the microprocessor and this is the I/O device. So, first microprocessor will send a request signal. If the device is ready, then it will send an acknowledgement signal. Am I clear? So, this is called handshaking, request acknowledgement signal. Is it okay? So, whenever the speed mismatches or the speed of two devices are not same, then we can go for this asynchronous data transfer. But in asynchronous transfer, what happens? Whenever the device is not ready, the microprocessor has to wait for some time, and for this waiting, you have to implement a delay routine. I think we have written a number of programs how to consume microprocessor time. Okay. So, we have to write a delay routine, so which will be used for matching the speed between microprocessor and the device. Is it okay? So, this needs a delay routine, and this delay routine is unnecessarily executed within the microprocessor, and which or it causes wastage of the time. To prevent that, we can use the interrupt driven data transfer, or in other words, both the drawbacks of synchronous and asynchronous data transfers can be recovered or can be rectified by the interrupt driven data transfer. Is it okay? Okay, this will be more clear if you draw a flow chart for the both synchronous, asynchronous, interrupt driven and a DMA. So, okay. So, this is the flow chart of the synchronous data transfer. So, both the examples are coming under the synchronous data transfer. So, here you are executing a number of instructions for transferring the data. It may be between memory to microprocessor, or microprocessor to memory, or between a pair of registers within the microprocessor, right. And whenever the speed does not match, we can take the help of these signals. Send get ready signal to the IO device, generate delay, generate IO instructions, then stop. So, both are the coming under the synchronous data transfer. So, okay, in both the schemes, synchronous and asynchronous data transfer, the CPU time is wasted. Okay, and we can avoid the drawbacks of synchronous and asynchronous data transfer by using the interrupt driven data transfer. So, to support interrupt in data transfer, already we know that the chip available for this is 8259. A device can put a request to 8259, then 8259 will put a request to microprocessor, then microprocessor will execute the corresponding interrupt service routine, then the device will or the 8259 will acknowledge the concerned device which is interrupting for the transfer. That is what we call the these things we have already discussed about 8259, how we can use 8259 to support interrupt, and one of the task of interrupt is to transfer the data. It can transfer the data, or you can do any computation, or you can do some special type of communication. So, all these are the task of the interrupts, right. So, using 8259 the interrupt driven data transfers are possible. Similarly, using 8257 we can allow the data transfer between memory to input output devices directly without the involvement of microprocessor by using 8257 or 8237, we call it is DMA controller. Am I clear? Similarly, to support asynchronous data transfer, we have a chip called 8251 USRT. USRT stands for Universal Synchronous Asynchronous Receiver Transmitter. So, not only asynchronous, this also supports synchronous, and now we understood what is the difference between synchronous and asynchronous. In the synchronous, when both the device match the speed. In asynchronous, when the speed mismatches between a pair of devices, we have to go for asynchronous, right. And this is possible, or this is implemented using the chip number 8251, which is popularly known as Universal Synchronous Asynchronous Receiver Transmitter. So, a single chip supports both synchronous as well as the asynchronous data transfer, right. And under the program control IO, which is responsible which chip? Because under all these data transfer schemes, as I told you, interrupt driven is supported by 8259 PIC, DMA controller is supported by 8257, and asynchronous synchronous data transfer is supported by 8251 USRT. Similarly, program controlled IO supported by the microprocessor itself, because you have to execute a program on microprocessor to support data transfer, and we do not need any additional chip for transferring the data using the program controlled IO or program controlled data transfer. Am I clear? Because program controlled IO means we have to write a program to transfer the data between a pair of devices. Therefore, the microprocessor itself is the chip to support or to implement the program data transfer techniques. Am I clear? And all other techniques are supported by their respective chips. Now, only thing is that these things we understood what are the schemes and what are the basic characteristics of each of these data transfer techniques, but how these are implemented using different chips, that is to be seen. But before going to DMA controller and 8251 USRT, the DMA controller, DMA data transfer are also divided into two types. So, DMA data transfer techniques is divided into two types. One is called burst mode, another is called cycle stealing, right. So, this is your microprocessor, it may be 8085, it is compatible to 8086, all Intel series of microprocessor, that it is always upward compatible till to your Itanium series of processors. Then in between microprocessor and I/O devices, we have 8257 or 8237. There are two versions of DMA controller available. And if you see the pin diagram, both are almost same except only one pin, both are same 8257 and 8237. So, these I/O devices will put the request for direct data transfer between microprocessor and memory, right. So, these I/O devices can transfer the data directly to memory without going by a microprocessor using the DMA controller. So, first the devices will put a request to DMA controller, then DMA controller will put a request to microprocessor, and the signal is that everybody knows hold. Now, if the microprocessor is ready to allow the transfer by 8257, it will send an acknowledgement signal called HLDA, and that is an active low signal, hold acknowledgement, right. Now, 8257 will send, this is called device request signal, device acknowledgement signal. Is it okay? So, again just like your 8259, here 4 steps are to be carried out. So, these I/O devices will first put a request to DMA controller by activating this line, device request line. Now, 8257 on receiving device request signal from the device will put a request signal to microprocessor 8085 or 8086, any microprocessor, and this is an active high signal hold, and it is called hold request. It is similar to your interrupt request signal in 8259. Am I clear? Now, if microprocessor wants to give the control to 8257 for direct data transmission between I/O device and memory, it will activate this HLDA signal, hold acknowledgement signal. And once the hold acknowledgement signal is activated, the microprocessor has to hand over the system bus control to 8257, because bus is same. The system bus is only one that is available within the microprocessor or microcomputer, and this system bus will be shared by all the devices including microprocessor. And system bus means address bus, data bus, another is control bus. Am I clear? So, this address and data bus and control bus, all for the entire system bus, microprocessor is the master. So, microprocessor gives this control of master to 8257 only when the hold acknowledgement signal is activated. And the moment hold acknowledgement signal to 8257, 8257 gets the mastership or control over the system bus, so that the data can be transferred from I/O device to memory or memory to I/O devices directly using the system bus. And during that, microprocessor may be sitting in idle or may be busy in performing some task. So, there are two options are coming now. So, microprocessor can be busy or can be idle. And why the microprocessor will be idle? Because it does not have control over the system bus. So, if microprocessor needs some data externally, then since there is no control over the system bus, it cannot execute anything. Therefore, it has to be idle. So, assume that microprocessor only has to execute few instructions where the data is already available inside the microprocessor. Then it can be busy in executing the program while the data transfer is taking place. Am I clear? So, this busyness and idleness of the microprocessor To support the DMA data transfer classifies into two types of DMA data transfer. One is burst mode, another is cycle stealing. So, in the burst mode, microprocessor is completely busy in executing its own program, and data transfer will take place by DMA directly from IO to memory in the burst mode. But in the cycle stealing, what happens? Microprocessor will steal, after giving the system bus control to DMA controller, it will steal some cycles, some few cycles it can steal, and during that it can transfer some data to some other device. So, that means both data transfer and execution goes parallelly in cycle stealing, but in the burst mode, when the DMA controller is transferring the data, microprocessor does not interfere at all. Then which is costly, cycle stealing or burst mode? And when the burst mode will be preferred? When a huge amount of data are to be transferred, certainly burst mode is preferable. Otherwise, there will be too many exchange of control signals when you transfer the data under the cycle stealing mode, because sometimes you have to give the control to 8257, at some other time immediately you have to give the control to microprocessor. So, the switching between microprocessor to DMA controller will consume lot of time. Therefore, neither 8257 is utilized nor the microprocessor is getting its full potential utilized under the cycle stealing mode, right. But again, these are the characteristics of the DMA data transfer, but how these things are possible? So, these things are possible whenever you know what are the internal components within the microprocessor and what are the internal components of 8237 and how many devices at a time can put a request to 8257. Just like 8259, there is a limit, maximum 8 devices can put a request to 8259, is not it? Interrupt request 0 to interrupt request 7. So, maximum 8 devices, and one of these 8 devices will get priority, based upon that interrupts will be serviced. Similarly, this 8257 chip is designed in such way that there are 4 channels supported by 8257, and because of these 4 channels, 4 IO devices can at a time put the request to 8257, and if there are 4 requests will come to 8257, at the same time 4 acknowledgement signals should be going to the devices, is not it. So, therefore, they are named as device request 0, device acknowledgement 0, device request 1, device acknowledgement 1, and so on, device request 3 and a device DACK 3. And theoretically, we can start from device request 0 to device request n minus 1, device acknowledgement 0 to device acknowledgement n minus 1 for other microprocessors like Motorola, Zilog, and there are so many other kind of microprocessor. But as far as the microprocessor, Intel series of microprocessor is concerned, DMA controller 8257 is compatible starting from the lowest version till the today's highest version of the microprocessors. Therefore, always it supports 4 channels. So, device request 0, device request 1, device request 2 and device request 3, and for every request there is an acknowledgement. Am I clear? So, out of these 4 devices, assume that all of the 4 devices are putting request for the direct data transfer to DMA controller. Now, DMA controller has to resolve that which one is the highest priority one, and that will be getting the acknowledgement signal, and all other device requests will not be getting the acknowledgement signal. Am I clear? So, because of the 4 channels, the 4 different devices can put request to DMA controller for DMA service, but one out of these 4 will be serviced. Why? Because microprocessor system bus will be only used by one IO and one memory. But how 8257 decides out of these 4 which is the best one? That means some kind of priority must be assigned to these 4 devices, and the highest priority device will be getting the device acknowledgement signal. but this device acknowledgement signal will be sent to the concerned device only when the 8257 receives an acknowledgement signal from the microprocessor. Unless it gets a acknowledgement signal from the microprocessor, it cannot send the device acknowledgement. So, now the procedure changes. So, that means one out of the 4 devices can put the request to the 8257 and one out of these 4 devices requests will be sent to the microprocessor by 8257. Then microprocessor will send the hold acknowledgement signal to 8257. Now, 8257 will send an acknowledgement signal to concerned device based upon the priority. Is it okay? Now, to support this priority scheme and data transfer scheme, 8257 supports 4 channels and each channel supports few special kind of registers like program counter, stack pointer are the special registers inside the microprocessor to perform the program execution and stack operation. In the similarly, 8257 has 2 special register, one is called count register, another is called address register. So, why the count register is needed? Suppose I want to transfer 20 bytes of data, the count register will be loaded with 20 and I want to send the data, I cannot transfer the entire memory content to the IO devices. So, I have to mention from where the data transfer should begin. So, that is why starting address is necessary. So, starting address will be loaded into the address register and the number of bytes to be transferred will be loaded into the count register. And the count register, because of the 4 channels, we will get 4 count registers and 4 address registers. And to select each of these count register and address register, we need a control word. And how to get the way we found the control word for 8255, similarly here you have to decide a control word for 8257. And once you select the control word, then you can select a particular count register, address register and load the value of the count and address on these registers by programming the DMA, then only the data transfer can be possible. So, all these things needs to know the internal components of 8257 and what are the different signals, input signals and output signals to 8257. So, that means now 2 things to understand the burst mode and cycle stealing, we have to know 8257, there are some input signals and there are some output signals. And under this 8257, what are the internal components? There are some components here. This is the internal system bus and these are the channels, channel 0, channel 1, channel 2, 0, 1, 2, 3 and this is the control logic. And of course, every IC needs some data bus data buffers for storing the data temporarily. So, these are the things and every channel should support 2 registers as I told you, count register, address register, count register, address register, count register, address register, count register, address register, right. So, next class I will give you the exact number of signals which are input to 8257 and which are the signals which are coming out from 8257 and exact number of bits that we can load into the count register and address register and the control word configuration. An 8-bit control word configuration, by using the respective address we can select each of this channel out of the 4 channel or each of the 4 channel can be selected using the proper control address, right. Then only we can interface 8257 to the and this side your 8085, right. 8257 we can interface with 8085 and this side we can have the IO devices. Only the signals which are required for interfacing between IO device and 8085 in between 8257 that should be shown. Is it okay?